Welcome to What's My Thesis. I'm your host, Javier Proenza, and today my guest is Liz Nurenberg, fellow, I guess we're not even neighbors. We're like roommates in that building, right?
It's very true.
Yeah,
Yes.
so TSA LA, and I'm in Monte Vista, so we are very closely related to each other in terms of our artist-run spaces, right?
Right. Neighbors and sharing, lots of sharing that happens.
Yeah, and lots of arguments over the closet.
Right, exactly. Who did do that? Yeah.
Okay, so then you were alluding, I actually still don't really know what the model is. And I know that there's 5 different setups. So I'm going to explain Monte Vista for the viewers so that they have an idea, because this is probably interesting to them.
Sure.
So Monte Vista is a curatorial collective. We don't show in our own space. We try to like hype up other people. And there's like 14 of us. And we vote on proposals. Like people will send us unsolicited stuff. Sometimes we'll vote on that. That's not an invitation to send us a bunch of unsolicited stuff because, we also want to put up our own shows as members. So we don't need a flood of that. But and then we propose shows to each other, and the group votes on them whether or not. Yeah,
It's very democratic.
Yeah, that's just how we do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys do it.
Well, it's similar, not too different. The cool thing about TSA is that it's a network of artist-run spaces. So we have 5 locations. There's Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia, and most recently in the South. And we have a common board and we have a common mission, but each of the spaces kind of function individually. And so in LA, we have... I think there might be about 15 members now, and we all pay dues. And every other year we get a curatorial spot to curate a show in the space. We don't take a lot of submissions because there's so many members and we all want to curate. And we also don't typically show our own work in the gallery space, but we do a lot of international exchanges. And so that's where we kind of show our work. And if we do an exchange with a different country and they want some of our work in the space with their work, then we'll do that. But it's pretty cool because we can also collaborate across all the cities too if we want to do larger exchanges. And
the cities are Philadelphia, LA, New York. You go ahead.
New York, Philly, Chicago, Los Angeles, and South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
That Chicago, I knew. The South Carolina one was the one that I knew I was going to forget.
Yeah. It's the newest one, so I'm like, yeah.
So then you're also a teacher, and I know this because Lauren Marotti, who's been on the show and is my belay buddy in the climbing gym, talks about you a lot.
She's amazing. Yeah. She was in grad school at Northridge while I was teaching there, and she was my TA for a year.
Oh, really?
It was really fun.
Cool.
Yeah, I teach in foundation. I teach at Otis, so I've been really enjoying that. But yeah. Yeah,
and you teach you're mostly what would you identify as in terms of
my own practice or what I teach?
Well, we take both. No, I didn't realize there were 2 questions in there.
Oh no, I mean I teach in 3D. So like 3D design, but not the computer kind, not yet anyway.
Are you learning how to?
I'm trying to learn right now. I'm a very handmade person, so I feel like it's a different zone for me, but I'm definitely wanting to adapt and grow and change. So trying to do that. And then I also teach a class called Creative Practice, which is like sort of first go at a studio practice, how to go about doing research and coming up with ideas, figuring out what form that takes, and then following through with making it. And all my students are freshmen, so it's kind of interesting to see them go through that for the first time. And my personal practice is kind of multimedia. I make interactive soft sculptures, things that are touchable, that people can put on or use as furniture in different ways. And then I also do some sound and a little bit of video and some drawing.
That sounds cool. So so when you say soft sculptures that are interactive, I think of the goat Oldenburg. Are you a fan or no?
I don't think I know what the goat Oldenburg is. What
The greatest of all time, Klaus Oldenburg.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I
You
definitely.
teach freshmen.
I do, but I'm also like, you got to give me a little bit of a break because I have a 3-year-old, I got long COVID, and I have chemo brain, so I'm all sorts of brain dead. Sorry. No, Klaus Oldenburg was one of my like first loves with soft sculpture, and then I found out that his wife like did most of his sewing. So
Oh wow!
the woman behind the man.
Damn,
I don't know.
I don't know if I respect him more or less now.
Yeah. Hey,
I'm being ironic.
I'm judging you right now. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
that doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So soft sculpture. I think. His work is probably funnier than mine, but yeah.
So you stay maybe a little bit like interactive. Like, what do you mean? What are they interactive?
How are they interactive? Well,
Like, I mean, other than being touchy, like, do they
Yeah.
invite you to touch them? How is it like?
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of them are to put on. It depends on. I have different bodies of work, and so some of them are more hand pieces. Some of them are more like larger that you can get inside of. Some of them are kind of like actual furniture, like chairs and things like that. But I think, I've done different ways about going about instructions. Sometimes I'll have drawings that show them being used. Sometimes there's images. Sometimes they're just out. Sometimes I perform with them and interact with people. But it kind of all stems from when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was pretty obsessed with rom-coms and really interested in that sort of nonverbal communication that would happen from across the room where they see each other and it's like this moment, this like magic moment. And so I sort of fell in love with this magic moment in grad school, and I started making all these headpieces that were in the sort of space of like a kiss, and they would, just hide the head and have this space in between that was really quite intimate proximity wise. And so, those ones, it's like you see people in it and then you can try it. So it's like, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
So and that gives us an idea of how people interplay with it. So there's wearable stuff. So like I think that there's one piece I've seen that's like a VR headset kind of configuration, but like with a really big extended like goggle, or is that not you? Or maybe I'm confused. How do people wear this? They put that on their head?
This is a body wedge. This is a very sad piece because this was the last piece I made before the pandemic, and so then that obviously the pandemic changed things for me. But this is like a body wedge where it's meant to go between two people, and you kind of press up against it and hold it in place, and then there's this head space window that allows you to have eye contact and conversation through it. I think the piece that you're thinking of with the goggles is this.
I mean, it's still soft. It's not like a hard sculpture.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, this one.
No, the one that I'm visualizing. Maybe I'm confusing it with somebody else, or maybe I don't know.
No, I mean, I probably I've just made a lot of work by this point, and it all it's like I like have been in this zone for quite a while, so I don't know exactly which one you're thinking of, but a lot of them do that. Like a lot of them are in this space and have this very kind of direct eye contact.
Eye contact, yeah. So then the rom-com thing, I'm actually kind of curious about because people either hate them or they love them.
Oh yeah.
Do you hate them?
I love hate them.
Okay.
I love them and love hate them. I think I know they're trash. Like
Okay.
I know that they're trash, and my husband is a cinematographer and he's like a film snob, and so there's just like a lot of movies that he won't watch with me. But I've been obsessed with them for so long, and then it's the ironic thing is that I was obsessed with them the entire time I was single. It was like I would watch them over and over again. And then I got married and had a kid, and now I'm like watching horror movies and stuff. So it's like it's different.
Really? Like what horror movies? Like Hereditary and that kind of
Yeah,
thing? Okay.
I mean, I could not handle gore at all. I was just
Uh-huh.
like in this zone of like I'm either gonna watch like an art film or a foreign film or a rom-com, and now I'm like, oh,
Do you
let's
think
watch
it's
some psychological thrillers.
Do you think that it's like dealing with all the human waste that you have to
Maybe.
deal with as a like I mean, because that's pretty close to gore.
Oh,
Like I
right.
think that the same reaction
No,
is
I mean, abject is like it's like real, right? Like it's like especially with a. Are you talking about like human waste, like with a kid, like when
yeah,
you
like
deal-
white
yeah,
like diapers
yeah.
and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
and
oh yeah,
and urine
oh
and
yeah,
whatnot.
oh yeah. I was like. It's like yeah, never mind. I'm not gonna say
No,
that. It's really, really
we're on
funny, but-
YouTube.
yeah, don't say that. But it's really real, you know.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
body is very real.
No, that's actually like I've never thought of that. That just clicked in my head that it might be, but I mean, no one's also no one's ever told me that they used to like rom-coms and then after having a kid they like horror. There's
mean,
maybe a little bit more to examine there, but we're not that kind of show.
yeah, it might be like
Like murder is now pressing in your head.
right. It might be like subconsciously, like you want the thing that you can't have. Like when you're single, you're watching this. I'm watching these rom-coms, like, oh, look how romantic and beautiful. And then like when you're pregnant, you're not supposed to see anything like scary, like because it'll like mess with your hormones and your like stressors and like and so
I
it's
love
like
that there's
ooh, I
yelling in
wanna,
the background.
it's probably the child probably yelling. Yeah, but anyway, I thought it is strange. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. So then, romantic comedies it's interesting to me because that's like I'm. I mean, maybe not a good comparison because the Fast and the Furious movies are loved by everybody.
Yeah.
But they're
Really?
like,
Are they?
yeah.
Really?
Oh, maybe it is a good example. Everybody loves them. No, I mean Fast and the Furious, but I get it's like that trashy, but like really well constructed. So like, what are some good rom-coms?
I mean, Sleepless in Seattle is like
Really?
a classic. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely.
That's the one where they don't meet ever. On
No,
like
they do.
until like they're
the
like
very
they're
end.
not even in the same.
It's all about the build-up. Come on, then it gets real, and like the body comes in after that, and then you get like the you know. It's like it's romance, pure romance.
Okay, what else? I'm sorry, I'm not gonna shit on your next one.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Probably a little secret that not very many people know about me. I watched Grease every night the senior year I was in high school. Every single night I watched it and fell asleep to it.
And
That's
what
not a typical rom-com, but Sandy.
No, I mean I think that's like
Yeah.
it's got all the
Yeah.
archetypes.
Yeah.
It's the original She's All That.
Right. Right.
You know,
right,
where the girl
right,
is like
right.
kind of nerdy and whatnot,
Right.
and he still liked her, but now that the peer pressure's that's a weird
It's
play.
really, yeah, it's very weird. It's very weird. I don't know. I probably these are the things you shouldn't tell people, but whatever.
No,
Full
well,
disclosure.
it's funny. I like it because it's like it's one of those things that kind of it's entertaining, but it goes against like the new which I've talked on the show before about the new Top Gun movie is
Oh,
like
yeah.
antithetical to everything that I hold dear, but I love the movie.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you got to make space for that. There's so much terrible stuff going on in the world,
Yeah,
like having those little moments where it can just be just, trash.
Is it fair to ask which like when you're like dating your husband before you got married, was it like, oh, this is like that movie, or this is like this movie, or it's not that literal?
I mean, it's no. I mean, it's not really that literal. And it's interesting too because when I met Aaron, I had been online dating for a while, and I was like done. Like I was done, and I was like, I don't even know why I'm going on this last date. I was like a half an hour late, which I never am. Like I was the one who would like sit on the date with the terrible person and just like because I would feel bad like leaving, and but there was that moment. There was this like moment of like we went on this date. We had this nice chat. It was really cute. He walked me to my car, and when I was going to get in, he like pulled me back with his hand and then kissed me. But he was so shy. Like he was such a shy person that him doing that like knocked my socks off. I was like, I
Wow.
never would have expected that from this person. He must be more than what I'm seeing. So, kind of built from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's very cute. That's a good
Very
meet
cute.
cute. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not traditional meet cute in terms of like movies because it's with an app.
Yeah.
Are there any rom-coms that start on apps?
Oh, I'm sure, certainly. I mean, well, there's he's just not that into you, and I think there's like the Drew Barrymore character is doing tons of online dating. Isn't she?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean like
Just the whole thesis of it being around that.
No, I mean I guess that like it's not romantic enough for cinema.
Yeah, maybe
you know?
not.
It's
Maybe
like
not.
just what everybody does.
Maybe in like, 5 years when that's like not needed, and there's like this other way of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it'll be, but
Neuralink.
exactly.
You're like
Bing. Yeah. Yeah. No.
yeah. It is an interesting genre. Any insights as an artist as to that before we move out away from rom-coms?
What do you mean? Like
Is there anything that like people would not think about? Like for example, the thing that people don't really get about Fast and the Furious is how brilliant the chronology of it is, because they kill off one character and then they make all these movies that happen before he dies that are sequels.
Right.
And then in the end, after like I think in the last one he was never dead.
Right.
So they like did all this contorting, and in the end they were just like, you know what? He's still alive. We like him.
Right. I'm not sure about that. I mean, I definitely, when I was like started to think about this really with my work and like actually consider it and not have it just be like this thing that was part of my life that I enjoyed, I really became aware of like relationships as being a construction. Like it was something that we kind of build up and make and create, and like the idea of like my experience of something is that experience, and somebody else's experience is this other one, and you're kind of coming together, and it's this constant compromise. So like it is this sort of construction, and that is something that's kind of different than the sort of typical rom-com construction of like they meet, they come together, they have their like meet cute, then there's some sort of like problem that evolves that they have to overcome, and then they win in the end, and it's so great, which I guess is a construction in itself, but it's like always that same storyline, right? And
yeah. It is interesting. It's funny that you did, at first when you said construction, I was like construct, and I was like, where's this going? It's a social construct.
Right. Well, I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it works in both ways, but it is funny. Yeah, I don't know. I think that like there's a lot of toxicity in pop culture too. That kind of is weird. Where like, I don't know about. There's like really a lot of popular music that is toxic in its giving you something to identify with. Like there's some songs that are just terrible, and then there's like recently, I don't know if this is a new thing, but there's a song by Dominic Fike, where it's like he's talking about just being infatuated with somebody that's not interested in him, which I think has always been existed, but like that, like really like, let's say a therapist approved sort of way of processing pain is maybe not in that realm so much. Like I think that like, and I feel like rom-com that happens because it's like a lot of emotionally not mature people writing, and sometimes there's like blatant misogyny. What's like is Pretty Woman is pretty misogynist or no?
Yeah, I mean, probably they all are. I mean, they're playing on stereotypes too, right? It's
you know Camilla
trash.
Taylor?
I do.
Okay, so she was saying that like she hates them because they like always humiliate the woman, and I'd never thought of that.
Yeah.
But then I thought of all of what's her name's career, Sandra Bullock.
Oh, okay. Right.
Meg Ryan actually
is
is not.
Meg Ryan is like the queen of rom-coms.
But does she get humiliated ever really in movies? I'm trying to think. That might be an exception. Because like Sandra Bullock is more slapsticky.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, I mean, there's
there's some dignified thing to like Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
I feel like.
I mean, there's the You've Got Mail where she's like, her bookstore gets closed, and then she still ends up with the guy. From,
that
the
one is
major
a bad
chain
one.
store. Yeah. So
you know what?
Not super great.
I'm sorry. Sleepless in Seattle. I conflated with that one.
Okay,
that one is a terrible one.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Sleepless in Seattle is actually just unbelievable. Like he's like on the radio. His son calls the radio, and then it's just not ever going to happen in this universe.
Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say about the other one. But yeah, there's a fun scene where the guy where he's like, they're talking about the Dirty Dozen as if it's the
Yeah, and they start crying. It's like,
at the same way that women.
yeah.
There are some good hallmarks there. Oh, the thing that I was gonna say is the ironic thing about You Got Mail is that it's about Borders taking over a small bookstore.
Yeah. And now they're gone.
So
right?
it's like a bad movie about
Yeah.
like something horrible, like
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's
Now would be
it's-
like she would be Borders dating Jeff Bezos.
Right. It's just trash. It's all trash. Saying
Yeah.
I'm a terrible person for
No,
having
no.
enjoyed them.
No, I think that there's something very human about that, Like I like the World Cup and it is like maybe the most based, not like in the contemporary, like, not based, but like the most like degenerate.
Right. Well, I don't know. I don't know about the World Cup. I mean,
Yeah, we don't have to get into it. There's a lot of slavery involved in the last one.
okay. I mean, it would probably be I could interview you about it maybe and ask the questions.
No. I'm well documented on my opinions about soccer.
Okay. We can just fill in with some that are clips from before.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, or people are just like tired of hearing it.
Right.
And they're like playing the clip in their head.
I mean, don't put words in their mouth. You don't know. You don't know.
Yeah, no, I have been in a very like me saturated space where I'm kind of like over like editing myself.
Yeah. Well, how many of these have you done?
I'm at like 160 something.
Yeah,
So
so-
I need to get to the point where I can hire an editor so
Right.
that my self-esteem goes back up.
Right. That is perfect. You're at the breaking point of your own editing. It's like
Yeah,
now
now's
is
the
the
time.
time. Yeah, exactly.
So so then Meg Ryan's the queen. Any other like big iconic things? I feel like I'm just not equipped to ask the right questions about rom-coms.
It's okay. We don't even. I mean, it's.
I just
really,
no, but I'm fascinated by the whole
yeah.
premise. But
Yeah. I mean,
I know this dog is super engaged.
he's really.
He wants to be heard so bad.
Yeah. There's a dog in You Got Mail, so he knows. There's actually probably a lot of dogs in rom-coms.
Yeah.
Yes, it makes them. There's like, isn't there must-have dogs, or there's one that's all about
Oh, the truth about
dogs.
cats and dogs.
there, and that one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a separate one.
I think that might be. I don't know how old you are, but I get the sense that you might be a little younger than me.
I doubt it.
You doubt it?
Actually, I'm 44.
Oh, whoa, shit! You look all right.
Yeah. It's like special. I have like really good face cream, so
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm lying.
you should
Totally
plug it so that
lying.
we can all.
No, I'm just lying. I'm actually
Okay.
lying.
So then you do remember when Janine Garofalo was an icon
Yeah.
of rom-com before she became like a political figure that everybody hated, and now nobody doesn't even know her anymore.
Right. I've seen her through those phases.
Yeah.
So it's good.
That was her and Uma Thurman, right?
Yeah, and that was actually I enjoyed that movie too. There's probably reasons why I shouldn't have and why they're not okay now, and that is real.
Well, no,
I
it had a
haven't-
feminist in it.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that must have saved the day. Save the day.
Jesus, this dog is really excited today.
No, he probably hears me talking. I think it's Coco, the dog next door.
Oh, okay. And he's like, "Hey, why aren't you paying attention
Yeah,
to
what's
me?"
happening? No. I mean, but I think I was thinking about, starting out with, because I don't really feel like my work is at all about rom-coms anymore. I kind of just cycled forward into just,
Now it's about horror.
oh, it's about horror. No, but maybe
Soft.
with this new piece, it's about killing you softly. No, I think, I was thinking about when I finished grad school and I was like a nanny for a little while, and like how the work shifted. And then, as I moved through the relationships in my life, how it kind of works along with that. So it's interesting, but it's not really something that I think about now regularly. And yeah, like I said, I'm more into like psychological thrillers and horror now.
So like now you're into the Pelican Brief.
Yeah, no. Although I do remember watching that movie. So
I remember it being not great.
no,
It
I
was
mean,
super hyped and not great. Same thing, like that. All those '90s movies that were like The Firm. I remember watching that and just being
Yeah.
like, "What?"
yeah. Well, and or The Net, like
Yeah,
speaking of
yeah,
Sandra
yeah.
Bullock, you watch those movies now, and it's just like almost like a different universe because I remember things feeling like super like, almost like hackers, or like really like technology was so weird, and
Well, there
now
was
it's
that-
just like, oh, it's so like what are we?
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, the paranoia, like the Enemy of the State, that Will Smith movie with Gene Hackman, where he's
Yeah.
like running from the NSA.
Yeah.
And that being like kind of far fetched at the time.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about stuff I heard on the radio, but I was listening
You're more than welcome to.
I was listening to NPR the other day, and they were talking about that movie Megan, which I have not seen
I
yet.
haven't seen it either.
But this whole idea of like an AI kind of going haywire and like killing people, and the person who was talking about it was saying like this is not a new model for film, because there's always the same stories. They just get sort of dressed up differently. This is not a new story, but in the 80s and 90s when these movies were coming out, it was so far fetched. Like there was just not in our realm of possibility. And now people are super excited about this movie because it's like in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Which I just think is
No,
strange.
and then like, but it's also funny because these movies come and go and they're so outdated. Like The Net. Like
Right,
The Net.
right.
What Zoomer would even know what that movie's about?
Right.
The Net.
Right.
No one
But-
calls it The Net.
Well, no, and like, but also like, it was so weird that she was just like agoraphobic and living in her house and like having everything delivered and like getting pizza
I don't
and like
remember that.
and like having like all these like FedEx envelopes coming and working from home, and I was like, that's like pandemic life, like
Yeah.
that's what I don't
Yeah,
know.
pandemic life was weird. But in terms of that AI stuff, it is getting really scary. And like there was recently a scandal. I don't expect you to know who any of these people are.
Okay.
But like there's this like subculture of Twitch streamers that have migrated to YouTube, right? And there's this guy Ludwig who's dating this person named QT Cinderella.
Okay.
And they're super famous, like big stars that like could rival, I think, probably financially, like movie stars
Okay.
at this point.
Wow.
So these are like really high stake youngsters that interact with their fans. They have parasocial relationships with their fans. So there was a scandal recently because this other guy that's friends with Ludwig, I don't know his name. He was on stream and he hit his tabs and it showed the tabs he had open, and one of them was for deep fakes of women in pornography. And one of the people that was in that, like a lot of he was friends with the people that were being deep faked in that, like Pokimane, which is a streamer, Ludwig's girlfriend QT Cinderella. So it's like it broke out, like the guy completely ruined his career out of just morbid curiosity. But it's really interesting, like it's brought up a conversation about the violation of AI in those spaces, because I was like, it's not a big deal. Then I pictured myself in a porno getting reamed, and I was like, oh no, it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a bit of a violation.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, there's so much conversation around AI right now. I feel like I'm hearing it from
Everywhere.
avenue.
Well, there's ChatGPT now too.
Yeah. And so it's just kind of, and I hand sew. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's like how does this play out? I don't know.
Well, it's crazy because creators, like content creators, are actively using all of this stuff as a tool,
Right.
which is like, it's an interesting thing because it gives credence to that, like scraping the internet and stealing ideas kind of thing, I looked it up because my mom wanted to know how to write an artist statement, and I was like, oh, just use ChatGPT.
Have AI write it for you.
Yeah. No. Just ask. Like, I told her to just ask ChatGPT how to do it, and it's
Okay.
like gonna be better.
And there you go.
It basically told her exactly what I did, but just laid it out.
Wow. Okay.
I was like, Mom, it's different than a bio, all these things, and it was all laid out.
Right.
I was like, nice.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfolding so quickly too. I just feel like the world is going to be a different place in like 2 years.
Yeah,
You know?
and it's so much faster
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
That's really wild. What do you see? Where do you see the future of rom-coms? I'm kidding. I'm just gonna peg you,
I
rom-com
mean,
lady.
no,
No.
don't do it. I'm not.
Well, no, Megan. I that's also interesting because a lot of that stuff, like movies like that, they all get claimed by communities too, where it's like a queer movie. I haven't seen it, but I know it's a
I
queer
haven't seen it
movie. I
either.
know it's a this movie, and like so many people adopt it, right? Like it's
Yeah.
really strange. It's like I don't understand politics anymore in terms of what like what people gravitate towards in terms of entertainment, you know, because especially like with that Top Gun movie,
Yeah.
like it's completely apolitical
Right.
in culture ways, and in terms of like it's just an ambiguous enemy,
Right.
which is even darker because it's
Right.
like the forever war, right?
Right. Right.
And it applies to any enemy that we're fighting. We can watch this movie and like project it on there.
Right.
So
Right. 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 Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that is a big question, is like what is the role of entertainment, and like how does that fit in with like the actuality of the world and what's happening?
do you ever feel like a lot of it is propaganda?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, I was also listening, just about Casablanca and how that was like, I'm probably not going to get this right, but I was listening to a radio show and they were talking about Casablanca and how that was meant to change the people in the United States mind about World War II and getting involved in World War II.
Yeah.
And I just, when I watched that wasn't on my scope of like understanding, but now kind of reflecting on that, it's like, it's very real, so I think film, entertainment, media, art, all of that has very much obviously a potential to activate and become political and like have an agenda, even like to change people's minds about things.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. Well, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about your place in the art world in terms of business? Because you were saying some interesting stuff earlier on that you felt like a lot of what tier was it that you said? Like the
mid-range
mid-range galleries.
Yeah.
Like who would you consider in that space? Separate from the ones that are failing, right? Like what would be one examples of mid-range galleries that are not failing, so that people have an idea? Because one of the things that you said is that a lot of them aren't being able to sustain, and then
I mean, I don't want to call it any names. I just
no,
feel
I'm
like,
not. I'm just saying like
Yeah.
what like to get an idea of what mid-range is, instead of like, oh, this gallery filled, this gallery filled. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess
Like, would you
so.
say like Night Gallery would be in that range of mid-tier galleries, or is that higher than that?
It's funny because I feel like when I first learned about Night Gallery, they were definitely like
Artist run.
much more grungy and artist run, and like when they were first in LA, I'd go to their space and it was all black and like really cool. Now I feel like they're definitely like mid range, maybe even moving up. Like,
And that's not
very-
like we're no begrudging success. It's just an observation.
It's
So yeah,
very cool. It's
so
great.
galleries in that tier, you feel like maybe aren't thriving as much as or
I mean,
aren't.
yeah, and I don't. I mean, I'm by no means an expert on it. I just feel like I've been in LA watching where the galleries are change the locations, and then galleries that are somehow not, or you notice them going more online, or and I
Yeah.
think probably a lot with the pandemic too. And so I've never really been. I never really considered that my work would be desirable in a gallery. Like, it doesn't feel as saleable to me because it's something that people use with their body and they do sweat on it and they do put their makeup on it. And it's not something that, you just
Install.
maybe somebody could just hang it on the wall, but in its way, then it's this relic. It's no longer doing what I, sort of imagine it to do, which is to create this interaction. And so I've never really sought out trying to have a gallery and sell my work. So I'm by no means an expert, but I do think, just personally, I'm really more interested in what's happening at the artist-run spaces, because I feel like so many of us are going out there and starting things and like creating opportunities for other artists and just trying to make interesting things happen.
Yeah.
Which I almost just feel like is totally separate from the commercial world of art in a lot of ways. Like, because there's nothing wrong with selling your work. Like, it would be great if I could sell my work and make a living, but I've just never imagined myself in that space. So
So then you are essentially like, do you have any aspirations to change the work modality to try to become more commercial? Has that temptation ever come to you? Not. I mean, I'm not judging.
Yeah.
I most of my friends function in this space
Yeah.
the same way, and I don't get paid for this. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
No,
So,
yeah.
so it's not a quest. It's just out of curiosity, and then also to give people an idea of like what different kinds of artists there are. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
is that something that you ever feel the need to, or are you happy that like because you could also just be content having a day job and then making the art for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, let me see. I think my ultimate goal would be to support myself off of my art. And probably for me, that would look more like if I could have exhibitions that were funded, supported, if I could get grants, and then if the work could sell in a way that wasn't, that was more like, as a relic, then that would be like pie in the sky for me. That would be amazing. But I don't really think about, like, as I said, I don't really think about making money off my work right now. So having that day job is important to me, being able to fund my own work. But I have thought a lot about like the possibility of, like, I don't think an artist has to be one thing. Like, and I think it could be really interesting to have, something that I make go into like a high design shop, or to make furniture. Like, there's some of my furniture that I think could be really cool in like public spaces. I made this courting chair rocker where the people sit facing each other, and it's a rocking chair. And so you're rocking with another person. And I've showed it a bunch, and it's really fun. People really love it. And I'm like, oh, if I could make a version of that could be outside. There's a cat over there.
That's fine.
That could be like in a park. You could sell like 10 of them, and they could be in a park. Like, that would be an amazing thing. So I've thought about those things. I just haven't had the kind of capital to make that happen. I feel like you'd have to kind of start a business model.
Do you know Samuel Scharf? He's Megan Muller's partner. Okay. He does guerrilla installations of like park benches.
Oh,
They're
cool.
like they're buckets and then just a piece of wood.
Oh, cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
they vary, but like they're very simple.
Yeah.
Kind of like it's almost looks like it's not a bench, but people use them. So he installs them guerrilla style
That's great.
throughout the city, which is interesting. But yeah, I mean, it would be nicer if you got paid for that. And
Right.
and I think sometimes he gets commissioned to do that too, as well. I don't want to misspeak
Yeah.
and say that he's just,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's an interesting, like, I think there is a lot of people that just have the need to make, and they don't really care about anything else other than the actual making part.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think that a lot of people are taught to sort of kind of like have an ick factor towards commercializing their work or monetizing their work. So it's interesting. But I think that even with that training, the fact that everybody still makes work,
Right.
like it's like, it really is interesting that it's not about that,
Right.
like, Molly Schulman,
Yeah.
and everybody else, like, and Carl and all of those people. It's like, it's almost a sickness.
Yeah. 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 I mean,
And I think that kind of gives the artist run scene vibrancy.
yeah, definitely. I mean, we just want to make cool stuff happen.
Yeah.
And like have a good time while we're doing it. Yeah. It's community too. It's
Yeah.
really important.
So then you're pretty active. You did a show at TSALA not too long ago. That's with So Young and Anton.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Anthony. Sorry.
Yeah. Ante.
Yeah, but he professionally goes by Anthony, so I want to respect that.
Yeah. Yeah. They were in the show. It was a show I curated called In Between, and it was the sort of through line was a line. I wanted to bring together all different kinds of work that's centered on the line, but in a different sort of conceptual way. So there was, let's see, I'm gonna not get this
You
way.
don't list
I'm on
names.
this one. Okay. So
When you list names, you forget one.
yeah,
It's just
it's like a problem.
it's
But
just a natural. No one should be offended.
yeah.
Don't say any
Okay.
names,
I won't say any
and they
names.
won't know which one
I
you
won't know.
forgot.
I won't know. But yeah, the work was really beautiful because it kind of centered around this very simple formal connection, but it was all very different in terms of what it looked like and the materials that were used and the ideas that were coming together. And I thought it was really exciting for me to pull this group of people together too. So,
What do you like about curating? That? What do you get out of that, other than that you don't get out of like maybe whatchamacallit, just like your own practice?
yeah. I mean, I really like to look at work and think about work, and I like to bridge these connections. And I read a lot. Like, I really like to read books, and I read, kind of fiction books, but I also really like to read textbooks and contemporary art books that sort of talk about themes in art. And so that gives me an opportunity to explore that in a real way. And also I really love to be able to create opportunities for other people. So being able to meet people through curating, do studio visits, and also just support the work that I like to see.
Yeah,
Is a really great opportunity.
that is a good one. Like to promote more of the art you want in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, I dig that. Where are you from originally?
I grew up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Okay,
Very rural.
And you came out here when?
I moved out here for grad school. I went to Claremont. I moved out in 2009, so I've been here.
How was that in terms of transitioning? Did you feel like you got a good network of people? Because I know that CSUN has a really good network of people like that are very supportive, even though it's still a UC school, so it's no slouch, but it's not maybe like of the same prestige as like other colleges as a like I'm comparing it to UCLA and USC.
Sure.
Not like
Yeah.
I'm not disparaging it. I mean, Claremont is a college. I hear I've had guests on here. Is it a tight knit community? Did most of the people stay in LA or did they travel? Like, do you have a big network of Claremont people still?
I mean, I guess I'll start by saying that before I came to Claremont, I was working at this artist residency called Oxbow in the Midwest, and it was like crazy amazing artist community. It was totally awesome. And I worked there full time year round. And so I was facilitating this amazing community for other people. And I got to the point where I was like, I want this for me. I want to be in this. It's time for me to go to grad school. And so when I was looking at Claremont, everything that they would write about it was all like about community. It was I had just heard that they had really big studios and, it was right by the base of the mountains in Southern California. And I'm just like freezing in Michigan. And so I was like, this sounds amazing. I want to go there. And so I was going into it feeling like this is going to be so much community. And I found it wasn't quite what I expected, but I found an amazing group of people there.
That you're still like connected.
And I'm still connected with. And the crazy thing about Claremont is we're everywhere in every institution in LA. There's just like so many people that went to Claremont that are out and doing stuff in the arts, and not necessarily that everybody's still practicing and like having like shows every weekend, but there's people embedded in all the institutions, and I feel like I feel really supported as an alum there. So, yeah.
And so then when you started to transition, like you graduate and you're starting to like look at spaces or trying to get shows going, you joined, when did you graduate versus what year did you join TSALA? I'm trying to like, I'm looking for a description of a roadmap that you took so that maybe people could emulate it and have an understanding of like, cause that is a legitimate thing. LA is hard to navigate.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and I had always been told, go to grad school where you want to be.
Yeah.
Like, you will build your network. And I think in LA, you definitely feel like the schools, the communities. Like there's the USC people, the Cal Arts people, the UCLA, you know. And
That's
there's
how I
this
think of
little-
it, and I'm trying to break those barriers.
Yeah.
Like I'm having UCLA people on this week.
Yeah.
I'm having these people, and then I'm having like non MFAs.
Right.
You know,
It's kind
like
of bridging.
those are like the different cliques.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, when I finished grad school, it was like December 2010. I sort of hung around near Claremont through 11, and I was like, I have to get into LA. I need to live in a storefront. That's what an artist does. I'm gonna live in my studio. And so I got this really grungy storefront under the Echo in Echo Park.
Whoa,
Yeah, and it was
that's grungy.
Yeah, it was super grungy, and it like had a broken gate, and I would crawl through it. It was totally
Isn't the Echoplex under the Echo? So it's
Yeah,
like
so it's right around
it's
the
on the
corner.
even grimier.
yeah. People would knock on my door like, "Can I get into the Echo from here?" And no, you know.
Yeah.
But I lived there for a while, and then I was like, "What am I doing? I work with fabric. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to be in a grungy space. I need to be in a clean space." And so then I went through my space evolved along, but I also started working for as a personal assistant for Edward Goldman, who is an art critic for KCRW for a long time, and I also was a nanny for David Pagel, who was one of my grad school mentors. So I was kind of just doing whatever I could to get by financially to stay in LA. And then I ended up getting
Nannying is not doing. Nannies can pay pretty good sometimes. No.
Yeah, but not. I don't want to talk about that money. It's like I was very fortunate to have the job, and it actually informed my work a whole lot, like being around kids. And
Well, I
play.
know a bunch of lady artists that rely on that income,
Yeah.
and it's like it's great for them to have that.
Yeah,
But I don't know any guy au pairs.
Right. Well,
That are
they
artists.
should get on it. It's time.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
because
yeah. I think it's more about the parents.
right. Actually, after me, there was a male former graduate from Claremont who was an au pair for
Jerry Maguire.
Yeah. Well, no, but
No, but that's a
Yeah.
perfect rom-com tie-in.
it's there. You go. We're circling back around.
There's a male au pair.
We're circling back around. And then I got a teaching job. So
Yeah.
so that sort of sealed the deal. But yeah, that's what's kind of my trajectory.
Your
But,
trajectory, yeah.
yeah.
And then how did you get into TSALA?
It's funny because Carl, I knew from Chicago. I knew from Oxbow.
Oh, wow.
So I've known him for a very long time. And I think he was like right after he kind of joined, and he was doing a show, and he invited me to come see this space, and I went, and I was just like, this is cool. Like it was at the time in this really grungy like mall in downtown LA space, is like really strange space, and there was just like there was a lot of freedom. They were doing cool stuff, and I was like, I want to do this. This would be amazing. So I like put my name in to be considered.
When did you when did we move into the Bendix? Do you know? Did Monta Vista and TSALA move at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got that space and built that wall in between. And I think that was it might have been in 17. I think I'm probably not right on the dates, but yeah.
I took a date there one time, and she was like, "Oh, this is small." I was like, oh. Now I tell dates ahead of time. It's like I'm at a small gallery, so they don't get disappointed.
You know what though? It's Los Angeles. Like that space is
huge.
beautiful. And
No, it's
huge, yeah.
amazing. Yeah. Like I don't think I really don't think this person understood what that space is.
Yeah.
That space is actually really big.
Are
and
you still dating them?
no.
Oh, okay. See, so they obviously didn't know.
It was a date. Yeah. No, that's kind of a deal breaker. Like if you're not interested in like, I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be, but like, if you don't like art or artists, like you're not going to have a fun time.
So you bring all your dates to MVP? Is that what you're?
No, I mean, I bring some of them.
Just
like
kidding.
if there's an event, you know, but yeah, like it's also weird because then like you end up bringing a lot of people.
Right. And then they're like, "Who's it this week?" And then they immediately know that you do that for everybody. It's not special. Just
Yeah.
seeing a window into your world.
Yeah, it's also kind of a test of like, can you hang?
Right.
It's not a third. It's like a fifth date kind of thing, you know.
Right. Interestingly, Aaron and I's second date, I invited him to I was in a show at the Pasadena Armory, and another artist that was in the show, Michael Parker, had this disco ball egg that was a steam room. And he would invite other artists to curate the scent of the steam and then make a playlist. And so I did this with, because I had some of my work in the show. So for one of the weekends, a friend of mine, Erica Ryan Stallins, and I did the smell and the soundtrack, and we did this like back to school theme. So we put vegan hot dogs and number 2 pencils and apples into this like steam bin, and then we got into our bathing suits, and we got up in the middle of the gallery into the steam egg, and I invited Aaron, who's really, really shy, on our second date to come, and he got up in there, and he was up in there sweating with the vegan hot dogs, and I was like, this one's a winner. I know he can hang. So
yeah, so you know exactly what I'm talking
exactly.
about. Yeah, it's weird. LA dating is weird, and we definitely don't have to get into it.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
We talked a little bit about some stuff off air that you kind of alluded to. Like, are you comfortable talking about that? We can cut that out too.
I'm comfortable talking probably about anything.
Okay, so you said you were on chemo.
Oh yeah.
Is that something that like you feel comfortable discussing? I can cut this out if
no, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
because you have leukemia, but like you have. And I was shocked because I know it to be a very deadly disease. So can you explain to people what's going on with that?
Yeah, sure. I have what's called hairy cell leukemia, and it's environmental. I don't know how I got it. Hairy cell, yeah. It's named that because the cells mutate to have these little what looks like hair follicles.
Oh my God.
And they multiply very quickly. Or not quickly for leukemia, like very slow. I have a very slow cancer, and it crowds out all the other cells, and specifically your neutrophil cells, which are the white blood cells that keep you from getting sick. So eventually I have no immune system, and then that's when I have to have chemo and get treated, and it knocks out my immune system altogether, and I end up usually in the hospital for about a week, and then my cells start coming back, and then I'm like normal person again until who knows when it'll happen
there's
again.
there's not a scheduled time frame. There's not a rate that you can kind of measure.
And some people never have a relapse, and I for whatever reason had a relapse after 5 years, so I just had my second treatment this past fall. But it's interesting because I also, I have a kid, I have a family, I have a 3-year-old, so I had a kid after having cancer, but it's this new relationship with mortality. It's also this new relationship with like connection to people, which is super what my work's about. It's all about. So I don't feel like I've worked with that directly in my work, but I do feel like it's very important to it, and eventually like somehow will kind of filter into it. But
yeah, it's a crazy thing to just. I mean, I almost don't go to the doctor so that I don't find out.
No, you have to.
I know.
I will say this just for public service. When I found out I had cancer, I was having 2 solo shows. I was super stressed out. I was teaching full time between 2 schools, and I just thought I was having panic attacks. I was just getting lightheaded. I was tired, and I just would get this little flutter, and that's all it was. And I went in and I thought, I'm having panic attacks. I'm just stressed out. And they were like, oh, you have cancer. And I was like, ooh.
Whoa.
Yeah, so don't mess around. Go to the doctor.
Yeah, no, I mean, I should. I definitely should. It's more of a laziness thing. But yeah, I mean, it is like, it's an awareness that I'm old enough that I am going to start having like high blood pressure and stuff like that. Like I do watch, those little seaweed packets that they sell.
Yeah.
I don't eat those. Those are like, that's like so much like fucking sodium.
Oh yeah. Well, sugar, sodium, everything. I know.
Yeah.
Aaron and I just finished a vegan Whole30, which is like, it's like torture. Like we just have tortured ourselves for a month where you can't have, there's no sugar, no carbohydrates, no processed foods. It's just vegetables basically.
Yeah.
Torture. But it's like a reset. I don't know, whatever.
So what in terms of work, like in terms of the work, can you get a little bit more into the relational stuff? Like Why is that so interesting? What triggered that
Yeah.
fascination in people? Like, have you always been a social person? Is that kind of the center point of that, or?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, my mom was a social worker. So I grew up with a social worker for a mom, like always aware of human relationships, always analyzing my own life or like kind of subconsciously being programmed to do that.
Mhm.
And I was originally a painter and I was a figure painter, very interested in painting the space between people and that like kind of energy, like having these kind of charged negative spaces. And when I went to grad school does what it does. It's like rips you apart, right? And asks you to consider what you think is really important. And I remember having a studio visit with someone, and I won't say who it was, but they were like, you shouldn't be making the work that you're making right now. This work is like, a rip off, and you need to look at yourself and see what's unique about yourself, like what's important to you. Like you need to dig in and like
Grad
figure
school
that
sounds
out.
fun.
I know. And I was like, well, why am I painting the illusion of a space that I could make happen in real physical life? And that's when I started making my first sculptures that would like position people into that charged negative space. And it creates this place of like intimacy, this comfort and uncomfortableness. It's kind of like some of the pieces are like sort of like being under the covers with somebody else when you put your head under, and there's that like hotness of the breath and you can kind of smell it, and there's like this energy that happens between the bodies. And I don't know, I'm just really interested in that. And so when all of, our social interactions started to move online, it's like it makes a part of me die because
Yeah.
I'm such a embodied person. I'm such a embodied knowledge, like physical kind of person.
But it seems like it wasn't just the physicality of making a 3D object, but the interactivity that got you excited, right?
Yeah.
Like that also seems like that was part of the missing element. When people interact with the pieces, is it usually strangers, or is it mostly like people that come to the shows together, like all of the above?
All of the above. Yeah. And
Okay.
it's always a different experience. And, it's interesting because I've never really wanted to be a performance artist, but I've found that people enjoy being in my work with me. And I think it's because they can ask me questions about the work, and I notice that they stay in it longer when I'm talking with them and sort of sharing with them, because there becomes this like comfortable connection between the two of us. And then, there's also like, I had this cloud piece and it was in a performance show, which sometimes I get invited to do these performance shows, which is like I make sculpture. So I have to install and deinstall. It's very not, it's like, it's very labor intensive kind of performance, but it was this giant suspended cloud that you could go inside of, and there was a sort of romantic memory map on the inside, and there's sound happening. And I was doing this one night show. It was like 4 hours long, and then we had to install the same night, and I had to wait about a half an hour to deinstall my piece because there were people inside of it making out. Like, I just was like, I don't want to interrupt them. But then it's also like, people will put it on with a stranger, and that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So I know it's all of the above.
Are you cool? Are you cool with it going beyond making out in your pieces?
I am. I'm like, let's get it dirty.
Wipe it down.
Yeah. I mean, at a certain point, I started using a lot more marine vinyl, so it's like it's very wipe offable. Yeah. It's like, think about these things.
But not because that's happened before.
Yeah, no, it hasn't. But this blue piece, which you can't really, maybe you can see in the background or not, was in my wedding. I made a piece for Aaron and I to wear while we were getting married. So
The neck thing.
this blue piece. It's in a
the one that's in the bag.
It's in a bag. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Oh my God!
I
I wonder how many like ridiculous ideas artists have at their weddings that their spouses have to put up with.
That's probably should be a show, like a really big show.
And they become a bridezilla about it.
Yeah.
It's my art. It's my day.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, and that piece was on the dance floor, and I remember another couple putting it on, and I was kind of like, "Am I okay with this?" Fine.
So then, how did the piece make you guys interact?
Well, I thought it was like our third ring, so we put it on after our. We did like kind of a funny marriage ceremony. It was really sort of sweet, but we put it on after our rings, and we were in it, and then that's when we did our kiss. Was inside of that
In private?
No, in public. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So people could still see your face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a privacy box for the kiss.
No, well, it's like half privacy box, so it sort of gets lower right here. So
I think I think maybe I'm just confusing the piece, and that's the one that I saw.
oh, maybe.
And it's not VR goggles where people are staring into each other's eyes,
No.
but it like locks people into place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. But I have made goggle pieces too. There's like these golden hour goggles that I made that are like sunglasses that are tubes and they're plastic and it glows kind of pink yellow on the inside while you're like staring into somebody's eyes very weirdly. Yeah.
Well, it was lovely having you. Can we promote anything for you? Is there anything coming up?
I have a show opening tomorrow. It will be too late.
Yeah,
to
but it's
promote
we
that one.
still do it.
Yeah.
Where's it at? We still promote it so people know you did
Yeah,
stuff.
it's at a small artist-run space called Idlewild. It's part of Keystone Galleries, so or Keystone Art Spaces.
What's that?
Sorry.
What's Keystone?
I'm not an expert on it. It's like a group of artist studios, and within there, this artist Mickey Tong has a space called Idlewild that he uses as a kind of gallery space, and they curate shows and do different things. So I'm gonna be in a group show there. And then the only other thing I have coming up right now is the show in Sweden. So
Sweden.
yeah.
And then you just had a show, so it's not this year, but next year that you'll have another show at TSA that you're
curating, yeah.
So it's every other year.
Every other year.
Yeah.
So I haven't figured out what that will be yet, but
We don't really have like a schedule yet. I think since we're all like kind of new, everybody's just like, oh wait,
yeah.
let's propose
what are
shows.
We doing? Yeah, how do we do this? Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
That's good.
But I mean, I shouldn't be telling people that we're disorganized. No, we're not. We're actually very organized. It's more like I don't think people just came in with proposals ready,
Yeah.
So then like we had to invite other people to send proposals. Like we invited Samuel Scharf. Because we know, like, sometimes when we don't have enough shows, we need shows.
No, I think it's also very cool to invite guest curators. I think that's an opportunity also. So
no, and it's also a necessity sometimes.
Yeah,
when like we're not ready. Because I mean, curating a show takes time. You got to go to do studio visits, especially a group show. That's even more work.
Right. And it's not like you have. Probably most people don't come into it an expert. Like you got to kind of see it happen a couple times before you can do it. I think so.
Yeah. So then where can people find you? Do you have a website?
I do. My website's my name, so www.liznurenberg.com.
I have not heard anyone say www in a long time.
I told you I'm dating myself. I'm old.
Do you know what I miss? The information superhighway. We could have gone off of a whole 90s thing, but I always do that when I talk to someone of my generation. I'm like, oh, the 90s.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, the whole episode on the 90s.
But you're Gen X.
I am Gen X.
I'm last year Gen X.
Yeah.
I'm cusp Gen X.
It's because we're both a little cynical. I think it's the connection. Yeah.
And apathetic.
Yeah.
We were sold that for years.
Yeah.
We were like, that is the brand. That is literally all the advertising for us was all for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I always love to remember right before the millennial, like 98, 99, 97, how the future looks so bright. And now we're here and it's just like, after 2000, it was like Frosted Tips, boy bands. It was like,
what happened?
It was like grungy. It was still kind of like, it just got so corporate in the 2000s.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool back then. I don't know. I think, it's why the music is still popular. Is it? No, maybe it's not.
Well, the rap is definitely not.
No.
My rap is so dated.
Yeah.
90s rap is so awesome to me, and I'm like, yeah, and then like no one gives a shit.
No, but I feel like you can still turn on the radio and hear it.
Yeah, but that's for us. Right. That's because we're still alive.
Oh, because we're listening to the radio.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay.
That one hurt.
Sorry. No, nobody listened to this. Nobody listened to this or watched this.
No, I need that. All right, and then you're at Liz Nurenberg. Is there an underscore?
No.
Okay.
No,
cool.
and then Instagram at Liz Nurenberg. Yeah.
All right, no TikTok, no YouTube.
I've seen a couple videos on TikTok, but I wouldn't look for me there.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, if you've seen videos, then it doesn't necessarily mean you posted
Yeah,
videos.
I have not.
Okay.
No.
Very interesting way of saying that. Thank you. All right. And we'll be back next week. Thank you for listening or watching. We'll be back next week with another artist guest with another topic that may or may not be art related. Today's was very romantic.
Thank you.
No problem.